What's good? You rocking with your boy TheCzarr, all rights reserved. This response is to the PrettyATLMa, who mentioned about gang connections. Now, before we get into it, hit that subscriber button, hit the bell. I'll have consistent uploads coming very soon. I always get on my job whenever I'm able to get there and able to focus on that instead of focusing on other things that I have to in life. I also want to mention, if you have not yet, hit that Cash App. And the Cash App username is $, capital THE, capital CZARR, the same as the PayPal name. It's $ TheCzarr. Hit me on Cash App. Show some love. Support my growth. Support my focus and how I'm able to deliver these content-based, detailed structures. Now, let's get into it. Probable gang connections. Now, what you got to understand is that Haitian-based gangs are a large, affiliated, stronger form of unity down in the southern areas than it is anywhere else. There were many implications of these individuals as well as suspects being related to a gang of Zos. That's the idea of it. So you have Haitian members and then you have Zos who are Haitian. And it's sort of like uniting, like if you wanted to think of the Ku Klux Klan or a group that's based solely around, let's say, the nationality of people that are included. From what I understand, Tentacion was not a part of this by nationality more than association. So what a lot of people have indicated is that these suspects were related to these gangs by their Instagrams, their flags, different things they threw. Now, do I think this gang solely had anything to do with what happened to Tentacion? No, I do not believe that. I believe it was more of a deeper, let's say, if not corporate plot, it was more of a familiar plot by someone who was closer to this artist and closer to people he was affiliated with by either blood or by extended relation. I do not think in this situation we will be looking at someone who was part of a gang and look to take him out, because it would have been way more, let's say, there wouldn't have been a question whether he got shot or not. When you think of a gang, the gang mentality is a mindset, and the way these type of gangs operate is very violent, opposed to the very questionable way that we've been examining this situation and what has actually going on. So there would have been pictures for us to, without a doubt, know that there was shooting or some type of extreme violence that took this man out, versus us questioning what actually happened. Now, to even say gang and group, I call most of these organizations movements, because the way a gang works is more of a get-together type thing, and the way these organizations work today, it's more structured and calibrated, whereas you do still have someone who's of higher rank. So anytime you have rank in associations, it's not just a gang. We're looking at a movement. That's why if you check the earlier video I actually gave you guys, it was talking more about how even though they're saying, oh, they're bloods of this and that, Treyway's a movement. It's a mentality. There's no race associated, whereas in this situation, we'd be talking about people who were affiliated around him. They had nationality as one of the sole properties and what structured relation between these people. Now, again, the mistakes of investigation are why I believe a lot of different evidence missed the time and won't be found. It's because, again, 48 hours is no joke. And depending on whether they were eating lunch, out patting each other on the back, whatever these investigators were doing before they showed up on the scene, depending the time they showed up, it would have allowed evidence to expire. So there is an expiration date on gaining certain prevalent evidence that I can tell by the way the case was handled was not present. And I can also tell by where they found the evidence that they weren't really doing what they were supposed to do to lock this evidence down in a way to even gain some type of substantial charge. So to be real, if we presume it was Michael Boatwright who was in association to this situation, if he disposed of the evidence properly and he got back to whatever situation he got picked up in and ended up in prison, he might have defeated the chance of him even being caught doing something. That's what I'm saying. It's all about how you handle situations. He didn't handle it right. Matter of fact, he handled his situation completely wrong when you commit a violent act. And I'm not going to run down telling you guys unless that's in one of the questions and someone donates and actually inspires me to tell you exactly what he should have done. But ultimately, he didn't do the right thing. There's a certain manner of progress and activities you got to follow to dispose of evidence so you cannot be implicated in crime. Number one, though, I will give you this. Number one is you have to see all the angles and perspectives of probable cause. If I kill probable cause around any type of case I'm dealing with, I can neglect the fact they even had the right to basically do what they did, so to stop me and accuse me of anything in the first place. Probable cause is a necessity for all lawmakers to clinch and to without of a shadow of a doubt. Now, one more thing. Most people do not know it's not just probable cause. Before probable cause is basically me looking at your situation and being able to judge whether I'm credible to accuse you of anything. So first needs to be credible accusations. See, what most people do is when they get a free lawyer, your free lawyer is not looking at the accusation or the probable cause part. They're going to look at how you'll beat the charges. When you buy a lawyer, they're going to look at every aspect of the case and how it affects you initially, in the long run, and why you were detained. That's the difference between what a lot of people get when they run with a free lawyer than when you pay for your lawyer, because you encourage the investigation into the time of realizing this. If a lawyer is very good, it might not be as much. Whereas it's another lawyer feels like it's a weight or they got a ton of cases, it may cost them a lot more. That is the only pricing between that. It's how much research needs to be done into realizing you're either free or guilty of a case. A lot of people don't understand that. Neither do they understand their laws. So they skip the fact that they're charged with this. I need to get free, rather than did this officer have probable cause to even stop me, to even accuse me of doing certain things. This is very important, because if you don't see the differences between how these things occur, every time you'll just be railroaded. And that's what happens. A lot of people just allow themselves to get railroaded. So they end up in the charges and they're like, well, I'll just plead guilty to this. But they're not looking at the fact they were not credible to even be accused of something. And that's why most people fail to get off of charges or to get charges lowered, even in cases where they could have walked free. Because they know people look at money as such value, they don't want to take the time to spend it. That's why you see a lot of these officers in like impoverished neighborhoods, because a person's less likely to spend the money it takes, which may not be super much, to get them off the case. Whereas you have lots of higher standard neighborhoods they stay away from because people have the money to fight back. That's what people have to keep in mind. And that's why I say, I'm not immediately jumping to gang activity as a reason behind this man's demise. But at the same time, if we're talking about associations and what gangs are stronger there, yes, in Florida, you have a stronger nation of Haitians that have created a gang. It's the same idea. Like if you went to China or you went somewhere like that, their local gangs are going to be nationalized. They're going to have some type of race behind their groups, some type of racial unity behind any type of organization they make. One really good thing is Japan and Yakuzas. You think you're going to go there and walk over a Yakuza member? You're going to have about 50 to 100 Yakuzas pull up because you just violated one of their folk, one of their people. It's the same ideology, but not all Japanese are in the Yakuza. You see, it's a lifestyle choice. And that's, again, why in my productions I said these men have to change their lifestyles. Even if they're going to be affiliated, you need to learn to put the cloak on, or put the suit on and the glasses like Superman, and then whatever you do on the sides, whatever you do. But you can't just portray this on Instagram, portray it on Twitter, portray it on YouTube and other places that you're affiliated with this group, because it basically whitewashes what it stands for. And I don't mean that as like basically making something white or nerdy, but it doesn't cover up the right way. It actually reinforces why you're accused of things. There's a certain manner you should carry yourself, and because when something's real, you really have the protection and backing that you need. Now, that's why I say I don't think that they were part of it, because from what I understand, by a loyal member, he was godfathered into the respective team of association. See, usually these individuals won't even associate with people who aren't really part of the gang, but because he did so well for them and he represented them so great, they were proud of him. And he was basically seen as a great asset to what this gang stood for. That is why I don't believe it was a Zoe hit or anything of that nature. I believe it's a little more higher up than that, something a bit deeper. And that's why we talked about other commenter questions the way we did in the order we did, because of the understanding behind what it meant. So his gang connections, if he had any, were to loyal Zoe members who may not have been violent in the way that we think, but may have been supportive in another way. It just happened that these men were affiliated to this situation. They're still innocent until presumed guilty, as we're going to see in the case. But yes, I do think that he was affiliated, friendly with people who may have had gang connections. But no, I do not think that was directly influencing in the situation that has occurred to him. I think it's much deeper than that, and I think as the case goes on, we'll see how the evidence does not stack up to the words that we've been reading from the Miami Herald and other individuals down there in that area. Thanks for rocking with your boy. Donate, TheCzarr, all rights reserved.